October 27th, 1904. The first New York subway line opens. The mayor holds the ceremonial ribbon cutting and floor pissing. Welcome to The Revisionists. I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
And returning to the show, lovely gentleman, gentleman of leisure, man about town, comedian.
Greetings,
Byron Graham.
Yeah. The Dr. Jekyll to Brian's Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
Eternally so.
I can never remember which one's the good one at first.
Well, it's Mr. Hyde is the bad one, even though Dr. Jekyll is by far the more evil-sounding name.
That's true. I mean, although Jekyll did invent Hyde.
He did. So, I mean, he's, oh, wow, you're seeing layers upon layers here.
Really, I want to see a retelling from Hyde's perspective.
Yeah, like the Wicked of Hyde.
Yeah, exactly. The hit song, instead of Defying Gravity, is Trapped Inside the Same Dude.
Yeah. It's the classic Dr. Frankenstein versus Frankenstein's monster conundrum, a.k.a. the modern Prometheus.
I wonder how aware Hyde is, if he's just like hates being in Jekyll's body while he's out there doing good shit.
Oh, he definitely does.
He hates it. He's like,
he talks about
another doctor's appointment again. You know,
another doctor's. Oh, so he hates
paying
the
your
errands.
taxes, Jekyll. You cuck.
He reviled whenever Dr. Jekyll gives one of his child patients a lollipop for being a good.
That was my lollipop.
He hates having to return his glasses to Warby Parker or whatever.
Yeah. Steal that magazine from work, Jekyll. We need it more. Who cares if it's Deborah's sandwich? We're hungry now.
Put that fish in the microwave, Jekyll. Other just mundane shit. Open that business in that residential zone.
Who cares if the homeowners association says your grass is too long? It's hard to cut. We don't have motorized lawnmowers yet.
People don't know that. They like,
but we will eventually have those things I just referenced.
Mr. Hyde can also see into the future. Most people don't remember that part of the story.
They didn't do a lot with it. They introduced his clairvoyance, and then it just kind of goes nowhere.
You know? Yeah.
But you know what a thing that Mr. Hyde would do is either not vote or vote Republican. Whoa! So this is an early tease that we're going to say. This is our last one before Election Day, so I recommend you go vote, and preferably not for the mail bomb people.
Jeez, in a world where we have to say that.
Hey, the mail bomb guys, not right. Not the ones you should be listening to this
Be a
election
Jekyll,
cycle.
not a Hyde. Vote Democrat.
Yeah, Dr. Jekyll is a college-educated white man, so he's marginally more likely to vote for Democrats than Mr. Hyde, who has no formal education.
He lives who is blue collar.
He lives in a major metropolis, so
although that is a myth, Mr. Hyde actually quite wealthy and votes for Republicans out of economic self-interest.
Yeah.
So burn it all down, folks.
Yeah, when people say, like, I want everybody to vote, I don't care what party you are, it's like, no. I do.
Yeah,
we need to do, like, we need some, like, if you're on a golf course, like, we need to not, like, we need to suppress back, is what I think we need to do.
Do you want to send a mail bomb to Robert De Niro, among other people?
If you have a membership with a country club, you cannot go to the polls.
Yeah, that's
go to the holes, not the polls. That's their motto.
If Fox News is on in your house right now, don't go. That's
yeah. Don't think, go to the links. That's the new anti-golfer voting slogan.
Have you watched the Blue Collar Comedy Tour? Don't vote.
Like the Russian hacker thing where they're like, hey, you can vote online now. Did you know that, liberals?
Oh, yeah.
We got to do shit like that. They're so dumb, they'll fall for it more than we will.
Did you know that voting for your favorite M&M flavor is the same as voting?
It's like, if you voted for the orange M&M, you participated in the democratic process.
My voter fraud voice is also very close to my Mr. Hyde voice, I'm realizing now.
I mean,
Pick up your phone and yell your vote into it. It works. Only if you have a landline.
we do also...
Which is why you get polled more often than other people for some fucking reason.
Well, they're
Yeah,
dumb
you
enough
think they
to
would have
answer
cracked
the
that
phone.
nut polling people? Like,
Oh, God damn it. Listeners, if you're new to this show, what we typically do is we take a topic from history. One person presents the official government-sanctioned version of events, and another person presents an off-the-wall, bonkers, batshit alternate history. And the winner then gets to become the truth. Right now, we are smack dab in the middle of our annual Halloween spooktacular. So cue spooky sound effects that I'm sure I will edit in.
Okay.
you should just get a soundboard on my cell phone of like ghost noises and chains that I can hold up to the mic. It would save us all a lot of time.
Spiders.
And the embarrassment of us inevitably never adding the sound effects.
It adds a touch of whimsy to never add them. There is a black cat in the studio right now.
She's crossed my path several times.
Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. My studio has an all-white cat, so it's a real Sailor Moon up in here.
Classic Sailor Moon sitch. We've all been there.
One of them is named Luna.
So this just says spooky voting. If you listen to our previous Shocktober episode, The Beast of Gévaudan with Mitch Jones, who I did not realize had such a golden throat. Beautiful, beautiful voice.
There was a singing portion?
There was an extended effort to force werewolves into Broadway show tunes.
It went on, frankly, too long.
Is any amount of time appropriate for that, though? I throw myself on the mercy of the court.
I mean, let's be honest. In terms of things that are too long for Broadway, like Cats exists, and that should be -5 minutes. And instead it's like 3 hours.
The thing I always keep forgetting is that Cats is based on a T.S. Eliot play.
Yeah, I have no idea what Cats is about, but it does. It has
about
some great
cats.
tunes. It has some great tunes.
It's honestly right there in the title what it's about.
Look for
But
the
I mean, like,
big
what's
screen.
the story of it? Like, what? It's just a bunch of cats doing cat stuff.
I think it is. I think it's mostly cats just being like, I'm the horny cat, and I'm the mischievous cat.
The classic boy band.
They're all the horny cat.
one, the mischievous one, the horny one, and the less horny one. That's 98 degrees.
And mischievous in this case is a synonym for horny, of course.
Mischievously horny.
Oh no. That is a sleeveless t-shirt I do not want to see anyone
He
wearing.
fucks you with a little whimsy.
Oh no. God damn it.
Oh, Mr. Mustafali.
Listeners, the winner of the previous episode was the alternate history, which, Zach, I forget the elements of that right now because it's been a little bit since we've recorded.
Yeah, I was like, it started as Beauty and the Beast a little bit, and then it went on. There was some Amelie in there.
Wow.
The Beast escaped and became the basis for Werewolf of London, and eventually Boris Johnson,
about that.
Brexit pioneer.
Was that your
Oh, Jaws
version?
was in there too.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. But, Zach, thank you for that, and thank you to Mitch Jones for dropping a whole Time Life album worth of show tunes on us. But also, real quick, since we never got to it, because life, the winner of the Jack the Ripper tournament, I guess, is Katie Hannon's alternate history of Francis Tumblety, where he accidentally killed the 5 canonical Jack the Ripper victims and intentionally killed the 6 other sort of associated Whitechapel victims.
A real comedy of errors. until it was just a murder.
Until it became, yeah. Thank you to Katie Hannon and everyone who participated in that. But we're about to turn our attention to the second and final of our Spooktacular episodes, the Bloody Benders.
You gotta put some more oomph on it. You guys, the Bloody Benders.
I really wanted to retake that. Hang on. The Bloody Benders.
Oh.
Yeah, see, that was...
No, let's get one where you're like confused. You're bewildered a little
The
bit.
Bloody Benders?
Okay, that's not bad.
Okay, cool.
Now let's get one where you're mischievous.
Mischievously horny.
The Bloody Benders. I'm the man of 1,000 voices. Hey there, this is Brian reminding you that The Revisionist is supported by listeners just like you. You can make a pledge and get rewards like shirts and even the right to vote over at patreon.com/therevisionists. But Zach, you're doing the actual history?
That's right. All right. Well, the Bloody Benders were a family that lived in Labette County, Kansas, around 1871 to 1873. Labette County, Kansas is about as southwest Kansas as you can possibly get. They got the land, of course. If you had to guess, would you guess possibly because Native Americans were kicked off the land and it was open to homesteaders? Because that is a safe bet. That is indeed what happened. So the horror begins.
That's so bonkers to me. It's like, here, white German, take this land.
Yeah.
You could just have it for being here.
It clearly belongs to you, of all people.
Yeah, and they could just grab like 160 acres. Like, what are they doing with that? They used 5 acres for an orchard, and that's it. The rest was just fucking sitting there. I guess it was like scream distance, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you gotta have that scream buffer.
Yeah,
that was a big feature on most property from that time.
But they certainly made use of their scream buffer because these 4 killed between 12 and 20 plus people over those 3 years. They were in order. John Sr., who was the patriarch, Elvira, the mother, John Jr., the son, and Kate, the daughter. John Sr., 60. He barely spoke English, heavy German accent. Elvira allegedly spoke no English. We'll say allegedly.
Sorry, just the way
because
you said that, like she was committing a crime. I
We're
mean,
gonna
she
come
is,
back.
but not that.
we're going to come back to the no English part of that a little later. She was so rude that other people in town called her a she-devil. John Jr. is 25. He was handsome. Slight German accent, known to laugh aimlessly, which caused people in town to call him
don't
a
like it.
half-wit.
No, I mean, imagine if one of us just laughed aimlessly throughout this podcast. How uncomfortable would that
Yes.
make
How uncomfortable would it be
I
if I
think that's one of our
constantly did
spooky
that?
sound effects, maybe, that we're adding in post.
Just laughter under the whole episode.
It's like a laugh track. Actually, we should do that for every episode so people find this funny for a change.
And find it incredibly alarming also.
That'd just be so much audio.
It would like triple the file size.
There was that heartwarming moment,
Just
where
get,
the
like-
audience is like, oh. Sorry.
And then Kelly Bundy walks in and everyone's like, ooh. that sounded more like a tornado siren.
Do it cheap. Get 10 seconds and make it clearly looped every 10 seconds for the entire runtime of the podcast. And in fact, for 30 minutes afterwards. Let's just have this thing be an hour long.
Yeah, that's our outro.
Pump up the numbers.
Our outro is as long as a normal episode almost.
And it's just laughter looped.
Revisionist is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
The audience won't leave.
Finally, Kate was 23. She was considered very attractive, almost no accent. And she said that she was a healer, a psychic. She advocated for free love and was unsurprisingly the big draw of stopping by the Bender's place.
I love how they just kind of imply that she was banging a lot. She was luring murder victims into that hotel.
She was like the temptress. She was like the Sarah Jessica Parker witch in Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would have like readings for people. She would invite them over to do like psychic readings and stuff.
Seances.
Yeah, exactly. It's not clear if they were explicitly a family or if just like they were a group of murderous strangers who met each other and started hanging out.
The first meetup group.
Exactly.
Serial killer enthusiasts.
It seems likely that Elvira and Kate were probably mother and daughter, and John Jr. and Kate were, if they weren't brother and sister, they might have been married and posing as brother and sister for the town.
Very weird.
A lot of
It's called a reverse Lannister, I think.
a lot of the details on the family are pretty obscure because it was, Kansas in the 1870s and nobody knew shit about shit.
It was mostly just dust out there.
Yeah, pretty
I know
much.
corn and some wheat. That's
Some
my thing.
wheat. There's a single.
I
crop
dabble
of
in wheat.
Yeah, and a lot of racism. Basically, so speculation is that John Sr. was actually possibly a guy named John Fleckinger. Elvira was possibly named Elmira Hill Mark, who was from New York and may have been a Black Widow prior to running out to join the Bender family.
Oh, hey.
A Black Widow is someone who kills their husbands.
Not
the
an
Avenger.
actual spider who anamorphed into a woman. Yeah.
Kate might have been born Sarah Elizabeth Mark, one of Elmira's actual daughters. Get more to that later. And John Jr., there's some speculation his name was John Gebhard. That's based exclusively on a passage that was written in a prayer book in the Bender house. So in 1871, the trouble begins. When the body of a man who's only identified as Jones is found in Drum Creek, he's got his head smashed in and his throat cut. Over the next year, 2 more bodies are found matching the same description. And after that point, like, disappearances become so common over the next few years that people start avoiding the path when they're traveling through the area. In winter of 1872, a man named George Lancor and his daughter Mary Ann disappear while moving through the area. And their neighbor, Dr. William York, decides to search for them to try to figure out what happened to them, and also disappears. But unlike a lot of the rest of these fucking rubes, Dr. York is connected as fuck and has people who care about him. So
He thought
So
to tell
suck it,
someone where he was
everyone
going.
else.
yeah. So he has 2 brothers, Colonel Ed York
And Doc Ock, yeah.
And Doc Ock, yeah. Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus.
2 brothers, 10 arms.
Oh, man, that's a great tagline.
He also has State Senator Alexander York, who had recently uncovered a bribery scandal, so he seems like an alright guy.
Yeah, based solely on that and no other information.
Well, he could have taken the bribes instead of exposing them, I
oh
guess.
my god, and then framed his co-conspirators.
Yeah. So Colonel York heads up this investigation. He questions every house along the trail that Dr. York passed through. And on March 28, 1873, he meets up with the Benders with a couple of associates. He has dinner with them, but the Benders manage to say, like, we don't know what happened. Maybe he ran afoul of Indians, as I'm sure was the excuse for everything. Mm-hmm. It was the thanks Obama of the time.
Thanks, Osages.
Just as racist, too, so...
But here's where the Benders start to make their... maybe aren't the most cautious of criminals, because in the couple days after he leaves, a woman flees their home when Elvira threatens her with a knife, which causes York to go back and question them about the incident again. The family denies the claim ever happened, the 2 younger do, But when he keeps repeating it, Elvira becomes enraged and says the young woman was a witch who cursed her coffee. And inadvertently, like a stupid villain, like caught on camera at the end of a dumb movie, reveals that she understands English.
Yeah, that's the like end of Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 moment there.
Yeah, it's a classic, like, these rubes don't know. I have no respect for these rubes who are trying to vote for me. Hurdy-gurdy. Oh, wait, is that camera on? Is the mic hot?
Yeah.
My nefarious plans.
Hurdy-gurdy.
Although real life has shown that a hot mic exposing you saying something awful is not particularly effective in the real world.
Not always a deal breaker.
Yeah. Sometimes it's sugar on top for some people, I guess. Anyways, Kate, when Colonel York is leaving, Kate invites him back for a private psychic reading in a few days. But Colonel York is surprisingly not dumb as shit, so he doesn't do it. The party he's with, York's party, is convinced that the Benders and the Roaches, another nearby family, are to blame, and they want them hanged immediately. And York's like, nah, I'm gonna be all Robert Mueller about this and be like, we need evidence.
Due process.
At the same time, there are hearings in town about the disappearances because neighboring communities are accusing this community of being responsible. And it is decreed at one of these hearings that there will be a search warrant for every house in the community. At this meeting are Colonel York and both of the male Benders. And after this meeting, the Benders fucking pull up stakes and get the fuck out. But nobody knows for a couple of days until somebody sees that their livestock is underfed at their home. And when that's reported, they still have to wait a couple more days because bad weather holds them up. So by this point, the Benders are long fucking gone. Mm-hmm. But they send a huge party, comes to their house, a lot of volunteers, and they search it. They find a trap door in the main room. This is a house that has basically one big room, but it's separated by a curtain. The back room is for sleeping. The front room is for a general store and dining.
If that was selling in Denver right now, it would be what, $1,400 a month, basically.
We could assume so.
Yeah.
They also had a nice little 5-acre apple orchard off to the side.
Mm-hmm. A good scream buffer, as we've discussed.
Yeah. And near the curtain in the middle of the house, they find a secret door that leads to a cellar, which has like broken slabs and a bunch of dried blood all over. Though they don't find any bodies down there. Eventually...
Man, make sure all your doors are not secret. That's just asking for trouble.
Well, I don't know. If you're a rube, I guess. It depends what you're doing down there. But sometimes you want a little... If you're mischievous, maybe you want a little secret room.
Okay.
I'm not comfortable with that now that we've associated that word.
In the apple orchard, however, almost immediately, they find Dr. York's body. And over the next few days, they find 8 more. All of them, except one, have been smashed in the head and then their throat cut, except one young girl who was either strangled or buried alive.
That's even more grim.
Yeah.
They also find another body in the well, along with several body parts. So, in addition to the 3 from before, that's like 12 plus confirmed dead people. So that one of the people who is immediately this town is incensed, and they grab this guy Brockman, who is a friend of the Benders and is still around. And to try and get information from him, they hang him from the beam in the Bender's house 3 times until he is unconscious, and then pull him up, trying to pull information off this guy.
Oh.
That's some real Abu Ghraib shit. It's real.
Yeah.
I was going to say...
These townspeople are shitty. I feel like everybody was just a little bit evil back then.
I did just hear Donald Rumsfeld get a boner, though, so...
He has such audible boners. No one says that about Rumsfeld, but...
he calls it the known.
The known
Yeah.
bone.
Yeah, I like that.
The known bone. Oh no. Oh, that is.
Yeah, he sees one of those nude statues. He's gonna get that known bone. Anyways, so the newspaper, he was described then after the hangings as stumbling home, quote, as one drunk or deranged. There's a prayer book found. That's where you get that John Gebhardt information. And it has such things written in it as Big Slaughter Today, Jan 8, and Hell Departed. Just random weird little phrases.
That's.
Eventually, the house is torn apart by souvenir hunters pretty much completely. There's a reward between Senator York and the Kansas governor that totals $3,000. That's $60,000 in today's money for the capture of these folks.
It's actually less than I thought it would translate to.
Yeah. Well,
I don't.
guess it's
control
not fucking
inflation.
worth it.
I feel like you could buy more. Stuff was cheaper back then. It's like, I have a nickel. Give me that cow.
Yeah, give me a house.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of the point of inflation, isn't it?
Guys, we got to whip inflation now. That's please vote.
So they deduced the method of killing was that they would invite guests to sit at the head of the table when they had them for dinner. As I said, the room was divided by like a curtain or a sheet. And one of the two men would hide behind the curtain with a hammer while Kate talked to the intended victim and kind of drew their attention because she was, the hot one. And then one of the guys would smack him on the back of the head with a hammer, and one of the two women would slit their throat to ensure they're dead. The chair was right next to the trap door that led into the cellar, so they could just easily dump the body into the cellar to be stripped and then buried. Doesn't seem like the people they killed were sometimes very wealthy, but sometimes had absolutely nothing. So it doesn't seem like it was exclusively for money. Sometimes it seems like they just killed because they liked to kill people. There's also
Love of the game. Love of the game.
There was a few survivors who corroborate that story. Like one guy said that when he refused to sit at the head of the table, Kate threatened him with a knife. One person became nervous about sitting at the head of the table because the sheet that separated the two halves of the house had blood stains on it. One preacher said he saw one of the men skulking around like in the edges of the room with a hammer. So it seems like a lot of these stories corroborate this method of execution.
And how just unsubtle they were about
Yeah, they were not the best. There was also a bunch of bullet holes in the side of the house, which people think may have been like survivors who didn't die immediately trying to fight back. But, they were understandably out of it because they had just been smashed in the head with a fucking hammer. Leatherface style.
Oh, this is very Leatherface a bit.
Yeah,
Yes.
especially
yeah.
that first one and that first kill in the first movie. Reminds me of that a lot.
You had this like sort of wistful look in your eyes a little
That
bit.
is one of the best character introductions in cinema, I have to say. It's very
that's
effective.
true.
And
That
real
is
good killing. Just top notch.
Efficient. Yeah, this guy knows how to do it.
Not showing off, just good old fashioned murdering.
That's the thing. Leatherface is about the craft. That's the thing. He just keeps. He's got his 10,000 hours.
These punks nowadays, these fucking saws with their fancy ass shit. No, Leatherface
Your
doesn't
Rube
fuck with that.
Goldberg. Yeah.
Playing these funny games. Yeah.
Regardless, they escaped. Their wagon was found about 12 miles from their home, abandoned. It was determined they jumped on a train and headed to outlaw country, probably around New Mexico. They weren't followed because people had a tendency to not come back from that region of the country at the time. But a few parties claimed to have tracked them down. One guy said he found John Jr. dead from some exposure or something like that. Mm-hmm. There were other parties that variously said that they went out and they hung them all. One party said that they shot them. One party said that they killed them all by hanging, except for Kate, who they burned alive, which is like, why?
Because she's
Why
a witch.
I guess. But the claims are obviously not, like they contradict each other. You can't corroborate them. No one ever claimed the reward. There's a few more incidences of people that may have been them after that point. In 1884, a man named John Flickinger in around Lake Michigan killed himself, something that may have been John Sr. Also in 1884, a man was arrested for a bludgeoning murder in Iowa and severed his foot to escape. People thought he looked like Pa Bender.
Oh, Jesus.
But he died after severing his foot.
Out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the time somebody who could corroborate his identity came, he was too decomposed to say for sure.
I don't know. The guy I remember had a foot. I don't know.
They did put his skull up in a local saloon there until 1920 when Prohibition started, at which point the skull disappeared.
That's the dumbest side effect of Prohibition I've ever heard.
They all sobered up and we're like, we can't have a skull around. What the fuck are we doing?
Well, the
is
saloon
haunted.
closed, I assume, but no one knows what happened to the skull.
Yeah, they just had a fire sale for all their decor. It's probably in an Applebee's somewhere now.
Probably. The Roaches, who I mentioned earlier, that guy Brockman and a third guy named Mitt Cherry.
Oh, no.
Were arrested as accessories for the Benders' crimes because they were involved in disposing of various goods from the victims and or forging letters to the victims' families saying they had safely crossed.
Mm-hmm.
Brockman, that guy who was hung 3 times, lest you had
yes,
too much...
he was. And it was sorry.
Yeah, he had 3 dicks and they were all big.
Real big.
Lest you had too much sympathy for that guy, 23 years later, he was arrested again for raping and murdering his own 18-year-old daughter.
Yikes.
So,
Well,
not the best dude.
well, I'm kind of glad he got hung 3 times then.
Yeah.
And
Maybe
very
they oughta
upset I
finish
made
him
that
off.
joke before
Yeah.
knowing that.
Later, also around 1889, 2 women who matched Elvira and Kate's description were arrested for larceny. In fact, on Halloween 1889.
Take a shot.
Uh-huh. And they matched the description of the female Benders. The younger one says that she's actually Kate's sister Sarah, but that the older one is Ma Bender. Another daughter of Elvira comes forward and says that she couldn't be Ma Bender because there's this affidavit that she was in a detention center for manslaughter at the time of the Bender murders for the death of her husband. They're released because of that, but a lot of people think that that affidavit was fake. A lot of people identified them as looking exactly like the Benders and such. But they were eventually let go for lack of evidence. And finally, the last little tidbit here is that Laura Ingalls Wilder lived around the area where the Benders were killing as a young girl. She claims that at one point her family did stop at their inn when she was a little girl, and that her father was part of a vigilante party that tracked them down and came home and said, they will never be found. That said, Ingalls Wilder moved away from there when she was 4, 2 years before the Benders were exposed. And also a lot of those Little House on the Prairie books, she kind of bends the truth about herself. So I think that's bullshit. Fuck you, Laura Ingalls Wilder. Why you lying? But that concludes the real history of the Bloody Benders of Kansas.
It's so everything about it is so grim.
Yeah,
From just the idiotically simple murder methods, the old bonk and slash. You bonk them, you slash them, you dump them. The dead cow that people find that was still tied up to its post with its udders burst. It's just there's so many grim details.
When the place was abandoned.
When they find it after that meeting.
Yeah.
I just remember I didn't know that udders could do that, and then when I read that, I was like, ugh.
It's real upsetting. Zach, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks.
Coming to you from the X-Axis, it's John of All Trades with your host, John X.
Welcome to this John of All Trades podcast promo. Each Wednesday, I bring you a brand new interview with someone fascinating and ask the question we all ask when we meet someone new. Hey, what do you do? It's fun, informative, and it's the 2017 Westward Reader's Choice Award winner for Best Denver Podcast. iTunes, Stitcher, and johnofalltrades.us.
Byron, whenever you're ready.
All right. Well, the Benders are so shrouded in mystery that the true story has never been heard until now, and there's most of the details are accurate, Germanic people. But what people don't know is that Pa Bender is essentially the Doctor Who of serial killers. Every time,
And that he's now a woman.
he's now a woman.
And he was Peter Capaldi for a little bit.
He was Peter. Every time there's a serial killer that never gets caught, it's actually Pa Bender. That's what's going on. We'll start with the motives for these Kansas-based killings before I get into his other regenerations. Kate really was a clairvoyant, really was a medium. And so they started killing because she wanted some ghosts to show people. And she was like, all the damn ghosts around here are Osage. God damn it.
Yeah. People won't pay. Back in those days, people would only pay for white ghosts.
Yeah, you need white. So she was trying to stock the acreage with good old-fashioned white ghosts that she could show to people.
Wholesome. Just very economically stressed ghosts.
I want to use this as some kind of weird method to get racists to kill each other. Superstitious racists.
It's like, if you live on an Indian burial ground, you need some white ghosts to help you out. You guys need to all make a suicide pact together. So the first iteration of the Benders, and obviously it's mutable. The actual identity, the Kate, that giggling simpleton John Jr., Elvira, it's like an aspen grove. They're all
okay. That's a beautiful metaphor.
They're one organism powered by pure evil. Just and the first reported sighting of any Bender activity, 15th century, Hungary.
Okay.
Rich princess Elizabeth Bathory murders hundreds of Hungarian peasant girls, bathes in their blood, makes poultice out of their brains.
Yeah, previous subject of this very podcast, I believe.
It's quite a skincare regimen. L'Oreal is coming out with the peasant girl poultice next year.
Yeah, and of course, there's a Fenty line coming out too that I think is going to be way better.
So they go quiet for a little while, pop up 18th century Kansas, and here's where the organism parts. Senior Benders, younger Benders go their separate ways. Young John Jr., giggling simpleton that he is, can't get very far. So
as a giggling simpleton,
sure. You got stuff to giggle at, and a simple
Truly
mind.
the leather face of the family.
But I think they all agreed together, we need to evolve past the bonk and slash. We need to come up with new, innovative murder methods.
It's hack at this point.
Yeah. So they make their separate ways. Let's say around 20 years elapsed, because I don't know.
Big in the 70s, but they need their scream to revitalize the genre.
Yeah. It's a new century. It's time for a new killing method. So John Jr. becomes very prominent architect in Chicago. That's right. White City, baby. And you can see where this is going. Builds his own murder house. Everything that one room shack didn't have. A bloody curtain. Come on. He's got secret rooms within secret rooms. He's got so many. He's got bodies buried in bodies. He's
Oh, it's the first human centipede.
Yeah, it's like that meme with Exhibit.
What?
I don't know.
You've never seen that meme?
What the fuck are you talking about?
I heard you like bodies, so I buried a body in your body.
I haven't seen that, but that's very funny.
I'm really into moths right now. That's my thing. But anyway,
And and actually, it's a rather touching moment. Pa Bender comes to visit old John Jr., sees the house for the first time, sees all the secret rooms, all the top-notch murdering he's doing, and for the first time ever in his life, he says, "Son, I'm proud of you." Then he gives him the old bonk and slash. That's right.
Oh, no.
That's what really happened to H.H. Holmes. His dad killed him. And then Pa Bender goes, jolly old England. That's right. London, little area called Whitechapel.
Oh, wait. Okay. You may remember it from the hours of podcasting we just did about it.
Well, you haven't heard this theory.
Okay.
Elvira does not take too kindly to Pa Bender's new fondness for ladies of the night. He's real mad about hookers. Real mad about hookers, old Pa Bender. And so she...
Yeah, I remember that Paul Reiser, Helen Hunt sitcom.
And she was always the knife wielder of the group. She loved doing the slash part, and she was like, you know what? Why stop at just one slash? Mm-hmm. Why not pull all their organs out onto the cobblestones for passersby to see? And when Pa Bender discovered Elvira covered in viscera, just knife in hand, he told her, "You know, honey, for the first time in my life."
Oh, he actually said for the first time in my life. That seems way more insulting than just saying it for the first time.
Oh, and then he gave her the old bonk and slash and became just a single entity. And he was his last activity, mid 1960s, early 70s, Northern California. That's right, the Zodiac Killer, everybody. He's all of them. Wouldn't it be so nice if it was just one evil thing? That's all I got.
Any indication of where he is today?
I feel like serial killing has gone out of vogue.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
that's
It's been
where
a
you're
while
wrong.
since
he's
you've-
figuring out his next move. He's figuring out how to bring it back.
There's about 15 active in the U.S. right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why don't you hear about him more?
Yeah, why do you know that so fast too?
Oh, because I can't sleep a lot of the time, so I spend the time on the internet.
It's like we're on the same newsletter.
Yeah. No, we're on a Slack channel. I don't know how I ended up there.
There's 15 active serial killers. right?
Estimated, not like confirmed through DNA.
That's probably still a lot less than there used to be, because it seemed like back in the 70s and 80s,
It's
it was
so
like,
easy to kill.
couldn't
I mean,
throw
in
a
the
fucking rock.
1870s, that was like anybody could have. You could kill anybody, and just the people disappeared all the time.
We have all this body gunk all over the scene. We have no way to trace that to anything.
I can't believe they owned 160 acres and just kept the fucking bodies in their house.
Yeah, I know.
They all must have stunk so bad. They must have
I imagine
smelled.
it's
well, at first they tried to throw him in the creek, but people started fucking finding him.
I imagine it's got to be like, I'll take that body out tomorrow, and then you throw another body on top of it. It's just like I'll take it out tomorrow, and then it keeps getting heavier.
Most of them were in the apple orchard, I think, so, or the well.
That's another thing people didn't. She was trying to grow new humans. She was trying to plant them in the ground.
Also, their cider, just top notch.
Top notch. Perfectly just corpsey bitterness.
Little bit of astringency. You wanted a good alcohol. Tastes like death. Love it. Byron, thank you.
Thank you. I probably should have written things down.
Listeners, I want to take a moment to remind you that The Revisionist is a proud member of the Denver Podcast Network, along with such shows as Motherfucker in a Cape, which is a really fun show that examines geek culture and comics through creators who are people of color or women or LGBTQ, and it's a really good show. So check out Motherfucker in a Cape. Also, I'm trying to unload some of the t-shirts we have on hand, just because I keep forgetting to plug that shit. So if you're listening to this and want a Jeff Tice design t-shirt, you can see the design on our Instagram page. It's really
Yeah,
cool.
it's
The
like,
Caesar one? That is cool.
Yeah.
Caesar holding a little human hand that he's chomping on.
From like episode 4, I think, or something like
Yeah,
that.
Very early one.
Yeah. Those, yeah. If you see that and like it, send us a message through the website, revisionistpodcast.com. Until we get rid of them, they're just $10. So you'd be crazy not to.
Put them on your torso.
Yeah, exactly. You need a shirt. So put it on.
Yeah. There's a lot of situations where a shirt is good.
Grocery stores, restaurants,
Swimming pools.
When it's cold,
showers.
Yeah. Sure. Just all the time.
when you are ashamed of your body.
That's what I said. Also, we ask that you review the podcast on your podcast service of choice, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, all of those.
Yeah.
Written reviews especially are super helpful. And you can always reach out to us at revisionistpodcast.com or at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Revisionist Podcast on Instagram, at RevisionPod on Twitter. Sorry. Byron, you co-host Designated Drunkard with friend of the show, Katie Hannon.
I do, yeah. Jack the Ripper off winner.
Jack the Ripper off. I don't. That's somehow so upsetting to hear.
She won the Jack the Ripper off.
No, I know. We don't have to call it that though.
You get a bunch of Jack the Rippers. You put them in a Jack the Ripper off.
Why are you Seinfelding right now?
No, yeah. Every first Saturday at the Comedy Room located in El Chorrito. It's a comedy drinking game. It's a great old time. And also, or do you want me? I'll just do them. I'll be on the next Queen City Companion.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Lord Humphrey Sliptickle will be.
With his collection of Victorian erotica.
Yeah. And also, I co-host the Mutiny Book Club podcast.
With friend of the show, Jen Colick.
Yes. And the next one is too soon. But we're last Sundays of every month in the Mutiny Information
Cafe
Cafe
be the
bookstore.
day after this comes out.
Okay.
So if you're really on top of it, listeners, you should get down there because that's a really, really good time. And it'll force you to read if you're an illiterate.
The book this month is Jesus, the best we could do. Mm-hmm. And next month is Cherry. So stay tuned. Read a book.
Indeedy. Zach, you are maybe want to ring the voting bell one more time.
So Brian advertised that podcast that focuses on people of color and LGBT people and women. And if you like any of those groups of people, or just generally poor people, I recommend that you go ahead and vote on November 6th or earlier. Early voting is open now in a lot of states, including Colorado. If you're in Colorado, you can still register online until the 29th and in person until election day. So if you're like, I didn't do it, well, fucking, that's still not an excuse. So fuck off.
Yeah.
And if you're
like
a Republican, you can vote by writing the name of your favorite candidate on a golf ball and getting a hole-in-one. So
if you're a Republican, this year they've announced a vote by wish initiative that's really taken off. So go ahead but it only works for Republicans.
That's right. Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents. You have to actually vote.
you have to do it, old-fashioned style, but the RNC bylaws allow wish voting. So.
Yeah. So that's what I would say. Yeah, this is the home stretch. We're not going to have any more of these before the election. So, next time we do this, we might record before the election, but I might, if you fucked up, I'll be disappointed and I'll tell you about it next time.
Also, the only people who think that I don't vote and use that as an ethos are privileged young white idiots. That's exclusively who does that. Dumb white guys who are under 23. I don't vote. All right, cool. No, fuck off. It takes
Dumb white guys. Do you want to be like the old evil white guys?
Yeah.
No. Be like the other people who are not shit.
Be like the old miserable white guys.
Yeah.
You
Why
could
do
be
you wanna
evil
be the-
or miserable. That's your only choice.
Why do you want to be like the people we're all waiting to die? Zach, thank you.
Yep.
As for me, Queen City Companion already got mentioned. That's going to be November 1st, first Thursday of every month. All fall storytelling show. And then I also host a show I've been talking about a lot on this podcast, Know Your Shit, which is Comedy TED Talks. And it's a super fun time. The reviews are in, and they are glowing. The next one is going to be November 17th at the aforementioned Comedy Room, and the theme will be myths. So come check that out. It'll be a real hoot and a half. But judgment falls to me this episode. And I'm honestly torn. The Bloody Benders is an insane story, incredibly grim, and incredibly stupid. Which is, I think, a Jonathan Safran Foer book. But that's a joke for three people. But I like the possibility of a Doctor Who body-switching serial killer roaming through history. So right now, I'm going to cast my vote for the alternate history, but the voting is now open.
Now, I will say, this does complicate whatever we decided for Jack the Ripper and for Elizabeth Bathory.
I was thinking about that, but since Byron never explicitly stated that was one of the canonical Jack the Ripper victims, I think we're on solid ground here. Legally speaking,
it just could have been any old lady of the night. You don't know.
I'll check with the legal department, but I think we're good. But that'll do it for this episode. Byron, I know you have a show to get to.
I do, yeah.
But for everyone here at The Revisionists, I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
Have a spooky time. Please vote. Please vote. Jesus Christ. All right.